So thank you very much for this. I'm going to be introducing Pau on stage, so if you can please get the music on, because we don't pay our speakers to come, they pay us with their time. He's giving me the strange look now, like what the fuck is happening, right? So I want you to stand on your feet and give Pau García Milà the biggest rock star applause ever. Come on! Oh, wait. All right. Now,
you certainly forgot to mention this when we first met.
Yeah. I never mentioned that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's kind of like when companies, they ask me, are you going to send the questions because there's a PR department and we need to make sure everything's in order. I send a false list of questions. So yeah. Anyways,
luckily we didn't ask for that. So
yeah, you didn't record this, right? Anyways, thanks for coming. Pau is one of the most well-known entrepreneurs in Spain. Coming from the beautiful region of Catalonia, of course. He became famous when he was only 17 and he had created this virtual desktop software called iOS that was later on, that was sold to Telefonica. But it's not the only thing that he's done. I think before that he had tried to create 9 different companies, 9 different projects, if I remember correctly. Then he transitioned to creating Bananity, a social media platform to join people with the same interests and likes than you. And now he's the co-founder of IdeaFoster. So, welcome to Starbrand. How many times have you been welcomed on stage as a rock star?
I mean, no, definitely the first one, and I'm sweating, so yeah, it worked. So.
Are you nervous?
I mean, after the stand-up applause, probably. No, just kidding. So thank you very much for the invitation. And actually, it's not false humility, but actually seeing the people coming feels a little strange that I'm here on the same list as them, so proud of that.
Great. I wanted to start because we interview a lot of entrepreneurs here, and most of the entrepreneurs we interview at Startup Grind are people well over their 40s or their 50s, whereas you and I are the same age. You were born in 87, if I remember correctly.
That's true.
Best year of the world, like Messi, Cesc Fabregas, Piqué, you and I, so definitely we're going to change the world. But I wanted to ask, let's start from the very beginning. How was it really to start to be famous that early?
I mean, we could actually discuss the famous part because I remember we started quite young, like 17. So yeah. We had no idea what we're doing. We're just a bunch of friends who were trying to learn how to code. But at the same time, we wondered if it would be possible that while learning, we would be actually doing one specific project. So the goal was to learn how to code. And I remember we're just looking for an idea. We could just apply our improved learnings. So the goal was, I was fascinated by people creating operating systems, but I only knew, I remember my only knowledge was to code in simple web technologies like PHP 4, but at that time it was 2004, 2005. So it was like a toy, not even a serious coding language. So the point was, we would like to be like those creating operating systems, but we only know how to create websites, so let's create an operating system inside the website. That's how it made the whole thing. And it started to make sense a few years later when everyone started talking about cloud computing, and we said, okay, maybe we could just evolve as a cloud desktop thing. It was an improvement because in Spanish, what we were doing was called web operating system, or huevos, which translated means eggs. So it's not exactly the best word you could use to describe what you do. But instead, we just moved to web to cloud desktop, and it started growing, and eventually it moved from project to company. But by that time we were already 24 or 25, so it was not that young.
You mentioned that you were making a lot of mistakes because you were young, but you were also so passionate, and you didn't know how to run a company that had investment and had a lot of employees by the time. So you even had to hire a CEO for yourself, kind of like a boss for yourself. Can you explain that, please?
It was cool because we were around 23 or something. We didn't have any university background, as we put time our friends were putting on university on actually trying to create the company. So I remember that the feeling was like the company was growing at the same speed we were learning things, and it got pretty desperate the moment where some potential investors were asking us for some KPIs on the company. And I found myself looking at Wikipedia, like what did those terms meant? Like we had no idea on actually, I remember looking for KPI. What's a KPI? That was one of the things, but then things on revenue, profit, before or after taxes. So it felt a little like, okay, we are entering a world we cannot even understand. So we decided to look for a boss, and it was weird to make interviews of your own boss. So we're actually interviewing a few people, and it was cool because the interview was the last time where we would be managing the thing, because after that, if they got hired, their job would be to manage us. And eventually, we found through one of the partners someone who was leaving a banking background, so he had a lot of knowledge on banking and finance, which was our absolute whole was finance. So he accepted the challenge to come with a group of grown-up teenagers, to describe us somehow. A company which was not organized, and even were lacking a lot of investment and money, because we were dedicating actually part of our time to do any kind of web development project instead of focusing our work on the project. So he managed to got the first investment round, and he was also there when we got into the deep hole. We could not close the Series A, so it was really hard for us to survive, but he was there, he managed, and eventually he found a corporate investor who finally acquired the company, and it was actually thanks to his knowledge and the work he did, while we were just working on the product, which was probably the thing we loved.
One of the things that really strikes me as surprising is that normally you're too engaged in your own company, right? And you're running in the hamster wheel, and you don't see the kind of mistakes you're doing, right? And so how did you realize you were committing so many mistakes?
I mean,
normally it's somebody else external to you, right?
I mean, to me it was pretty obvious, because I was looking to us, and I was realizing that if what we were doing was actually good, we should have many more investors and people willing to invest. And there was a lot of hype around what we were doing, but in the end, when investors started to look at the real core of the company, not even the technology, which was the part we were probably proud of and the part that we controlled, but the company itself, they said, no, come and visit me when you are more ready. So actually the message was quite clear. They were telling us, you know how to create a tech product, you have no idea how to run a company, so you should look for someone that could manage you. So that's why we looked for that person. And also from my perspective, probably the worst thing I personally have, and it's not me saying it, but probably the people I've worked with, they all agree on the same thing, is that I like to start things, but at some point where they start to grow, I feel that there is not a place for me there, because the knowledge you need to make something bigger, it's quite different than the knowledge you need to create it from scratch. So I felt that my place was closer to creating things, not actually making them grow. So it made sense to find someone that could understand growth.
Seems like you're a fire starter, right? You like to begin things, then move onto other projects, which is kind of like what defines the serial entrepreneurs. I wanted to ask, what is the most the most expensive learning or fuck up you've ever had?
Definitely, it's a company you actually mentioned. It was called Bananity. We put not just our time but our savings there, and really the most frustrating thing is that I still think it's a good idea. So probably if I didn't have this big scarf here, mental scarf on what happened, I would probably love the idea if someone came to me with the same idea. The concept was it was on the very beginning of big data as a concept. It was 2009, 2010. Of course, there was already people talking about big data, but it was not big hype like a few years after that. And we were thinking, Amazon is growing so giantly, partly because of their algorithm by recommending products, and we were quite interested on how algorithms worked, specifically on how did they recommend you the next thing you would love. But all of them were vertical algorithms, which meant that you could actually receive a recommendation of a book after you bought a few books, or you receive a recommendation of a movie after you bought a few movies. So we were interested in a multi-axis algorithm that would be the global recommendator, where it would be smart enough to say if you like this O'Reilly book and you love the last Avengers movie and you like Startup Grind, and you love Barcelona, but still at the same time you hate this, and that. Yeah. It should be smart enough to recommend you anything out of everything. So you could actually say, I love this and I hate this. It was like a game. You need to say 50 things you loved and 50 things you hated. At the very beginning, it was showing you concepts saying, I love this and I hate this. And in the end, it would start giving you recommendations about literally anything in the world, like a restaurant, a city, a trip, a movie, a book, a plan, whatever, and even a person. And that was the final goal, was to recommend you people that would have a match of interest with you. And you should decide what to do with that, because probably it was not the best starting point for a couple. It was not like a match style. It was not thought for sex. Actually, we believe that when you match 95% on knowledge on someone, you will ever end in a bed, because you'll be like wholly concentrated on sharing the passion. So probably it's not how couples work. But it was still quite interesting to find people that would have same interest of you. That was the goal. Result was that we lost all our savings. We went bankruptcy, so it was quite hard to learn that we were not as good as we thought on building this. So we created it, I think, the wrong side, because instead of creating a company to build an algorithm or creating a social network, we tried to build both. Mm-hmm. So we're creating a social network based on an algorithm with the money not enough to build a social network and not enough to build a good algorithm. So essentially, we ran out of money quite before making something really, really nice.
But you got a lot of press, and you were in TV, and you said you wanted to grow up and be a radio presenter, right?
That was when I was young. I remember my only. I mean, if you ask me when I was 10 or 12, my dream was to. I love radio as a concept, and I wanted to host a show on the morning. Not a show. I mean, wherever. I love radio. When I was 14, my father offered me what did I prefer, internet at home or a radio antenna, and I had a radio antenna. So I had pretty clear what I knew. All of my friends are saying I have no idea what I will do when I'm older. I said, yeah, I know. You don't, but I do. I'll be a radio host, and eventually,
someday.
Well, the dream is still there. So.
The dream's still there. You still got time, pretty young. So I wanted to say, you got a lot of media attention, you got a lot of press, and you managed to engage a lot of famous people, right? Like André Buenafuente, which probably means nothing to most of you if you're foreigners, but it's like really well-known stand-up comedian / presenter, and you had even if I remember correctly, a minister of Spain invested in the company.
Which is, by the way, terrible. The moment you close a company and there is one, one of the partners of the investors who is a former minister, everything got fucked up because, I mean, it's not as easy to close.
Don't do it,
recommendation, do not. You just check your investors that they were not science ministers of your country. Everything gets more difficult the moment you fail. If you plan to be super successful, that's fine, no big problem there. But the moment you fail, that's everything gets worse.
If that's a really cool learning, actually, a good lesson for you. Don't ever have as an investor a minister, right?
I mean,
if you were planning on it, it's all right, it's already done.
I would say that still, good thing is that when you are going bankruptcy, the company goes bankruptcy, and you have some famous investors. They will really look at everything was done right. So at least that the moment it gets closed after whatever months happen, whatever, you feel pretty well because you know everything was done super right because everyone looked at every single number and comma because there was some former politician involved even if it was, in our case, it was as a minimum ticket investor. So it was one investor, she had a lot of investments. Right. One of them was ours. But good news for everyone, including us, is that when you close, somebody will be looking at all the numbers and they'll be saying, okay, this closed because of everything, not because the founders stole money or whatever. So at least you can sleep well after that because somebody's really looking into you.
It kind of like reminds me, back in the day, we interviewed one ex-famous basketball player who's now an investor and said, like, what's the one learning or one fuck up you did that you can share with the rest of the audience? Say like, well, I signed up a contract with FC Barcelona too early, too young. It's like, dude, we're not going to use this, right? Something actionable for them. So it was pretty fun. And it brings me back to engaging with celebrities, because not only that, also the King of Spain, which is not very cool nowadays, but maybe back in the day it was still okay. He wrote the foreword to one of your books.
That was a funny story there, because by the moment iOS was growing, we received an award, which it was called formerly Impulsa Award. Now that they changed the name. Mm-hmm. And during that day, there was like 10 of us receiving the different awards for different purposes, and we had this private meeting with the former prince, who is now the king.
Yeah.
And he said this, like, oh, I really like what you are doing. It's not my space technology, but still hope I could help you with anything. But still said, oh, you know, I wrote a book and nobody wants to publish it because they say you are nobody. But I'm sure if Prince of Spain was writing a recommendation on the book, they would say okay. And he was like, okay, I was not expecting you to ask something specific to me. It was like it was just a sentence. Like, if I could help you in something, I would. I was not expecting you to actually ask something. And I thought he would never do it, but after a couple of weeks after that, they called me from like Royal House saying, where should we deliver this? Said, but can I print it with the book? And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. But in the end, I said yes, and the book got published with the recommendation, which was pretty cool. Good thing about what you were saying about.
Yeah. Nice problem to have, right?
Yeah, it's a happy problem, right. Definitely. But it was funny because the project iOS was probably in Spain, it was known because of we were young and the press was financial crisis, so the press was media was in general was trying to find some cases of people doing something in the middle of the crisis. Even if we were going bankruptcy, it was a story to tell of people doing something. But outside Spain, nothing of this counted at all. I mean, we're continuously presenting what we're doing on companies in the US, and they didn't care about the media or the hype. They were just checking the software. And I remember going to my mom's place and my dad's place, and I was telling them something great happened. We got like a due diligence by IBM, an R&D center they have near New York. And we went there, and they checked the whole code, and they read all our code, and they integrated it, or they put it as an offering in their biggest server they had, which is called a mainframe, which is still a room, big-sized server, which is millions of dollars, investments for governments and banks and whatever. So in the end, they put our software as an offering to these kind of mainframes. And to me, that was the award. I mean, that's the best award you can receive when you are a programmer, because somebody as big as IBM was telling you, your software is good, and I'm trusting it for my biggest server. And my mom was like, okay, I didn't understand anything, but I'm pretty sure you like it. But you know, there was this magazine in Spanish that featured you. I'm so proud of that. My son said, but come on, this is not even talking about this. I'm telling you, this is talking about whatever, like, oh, these young people is doing something. They said, yeah, but still, you focus on your techie things. I'll get some, you know, I'll be cutting some printouts of you. So I'll be proud of my son. You can be proud of this techie thing. And outside Spain, nothing of what was happening here really mattered, and we were really focusing on the software. In Spain, there was a lot of gossip around, but in the end, you know, investors go beyond that. So not even that helped when raising investment.
And actually, that brings me to my next question, because you're quite different in the sense of, like, regarding other entrepreneurs in Spain. Most of them, they're more like silent, they're more back office, and they're just more like, most of them, we don't even know the names of the people who created certain big companies, right? Whereas you were actually speaking publicly, you were hosting conferences, and you were even going to the US. You were pretty media friendly, right? Did that help you or not at all?
I think it depends.
Why did you do it? Was it conscious?
It was conscious. I mean, for the last 6 or 7 years of my life, everything I put really interest on was to actually learning how to talk. As my goal was to do radio, so the whole internet startup was an accident, actually. But I thought, okay, let's try to explain what we do in a different way. So it was intentions, the goal of using the media attention to actually explain what we were doing. Was it beneficial? It depends. On the first years, yes, it was, because we got a lot of free coverage on newspapers that probably we couldn't pay differently. But in the end, it was also tough because the moment you are doing something, everyone loves you. The moment you actually explain, and it was us explaining, okay, we couldn't close a round, maybe we are going bankruptcy. Everyone was super tough at us, like, unmounting this guy, this is not worth it. It was really promising, and in the end, nothing. And then a year later, the company was acquired, and everyone was back to, oh, no, they were doing something good. But then 2 years after that, the group that acquired us closed the software unit, and they rehired everyone to another place. And everyone was back to, oh no, but these guys, well, look, the software didn't work for the big company. So in the end, a lot of media attention means you get free coverage, but it also means when you do something wrong, and you do lots of things wrong as any entrepreneur, everyone is really, really smashing you and trying to kill the whole thing they gave. Proof of that is that IdeaFoster is pretty under the radar. I mean, we do something which is maybe not that attractive to media.
Let's get into that, yeah.
Yeah,
Can you tell us what IdeaFoster is?
Yeah, actually, IdeaFoster is a mix of what happens when you mix consultancy on fast innovation and startups. So basically, we work with medium and mainly big-sized companies, accelerating their TTP, which is their time to prototype. So we check how long does it take for a company like Nestle or Procter & Gamble or Visa to create and test prototypes with real people, not with employees or even focus groups, but with real people. And we work with them to transform that TTP into a startup compliant TTP. So we check how fast are the startups that are competing with them creating prototypes, and we want to achieve that speed. So we are seen as the enemy of the processes and procurement and all the logical processes they have. But in the end, they appreciate being as fast as startups, because when a big corporation can be as fast as startups, they can win the battle, because in the end, they have the resources and they have the speed. The problem is that when 1,000 startups are competing with a big corporation, because each one of the startups is attacking like 1% of that big corporation clients on a better way, they're giving better services to that 1%, and together 1,000 startups are actually trying to absorb the 100% of their clients. At the moment, a big corporation can go to the same speed as startups, they can build something nice, and that's what we do. We are based in Barcelona, we have an office in Lausanne in Switzerland, and it's working well. We've been profitable for 2 years now, and hopefully we'll keep that track.
I wanted to ask, because one of the things, when I hear it, just makes me cringe a little bit when corporates say, no, we're like a startup. It's like, dude, no, you're not. You're not.
Totally,
okay, let's get things straight, right?
We agree.
Yeah, okay, because they've got the money and they create a new unit, they repurpose.
They put a ping pong table or a small
and they change the logo.
Yeah.
And all of that. But the thing is, then they say, all right, yeah, let's get into the meeting. It's like, oh yeah, we can have the meeting in like 3 months because our head of department's not here.
That's our fight every day. Like they say. So it's strange because on the first meetings that they say, no, we want to be this startup and we are so cool, look, we build this space. They usually associate startup with a cool space and millennials, which is a weird way of understanding. But in the end, they say, okay, cool. So we come to the first meeting and we will be there for a couple of weeks working with them. And they say, oh, I'm sorry. The way you are dressed, it's only for Fridays. The rest of the week.
Casual Fridays.
Yeah, it's casual Fridays. So I said, no, actually.
So I mean, met with you lately, right?
So our answer is, yeah, you'll see me on Friday. I'll be casual. This is the most serious outfit we have. So in the end, it's not like people or age or space. What we do is to externalize everything that cannot be done internally. Like if you need to go through 10 processes, like one of the first things we do is to analyze how long would it take them if they want to hire a startup to work with them for 1 week. And the last time we did it for a Latin American company, the answer was 17 weeks. So they needed 17 weeks if we wanted the whole thing to go straight according to their processes to hire one startup for a 1 week project. It took them 17 weeks to hire them, like 5 weeks, then to do the service, and then to pay them. Yeah. So we said, this is not working.
The startup might have died already.
Yeah, and they will not accept. It's super wrong that big corporations think that startups are willing to work with them because they are big. That's not true. If you go to good startups and you tell them I'm IBM or I'm Telefonica or I'm a big thing, they will say, okay, but you'll be paying me the same day that my client's paying me, which is the same day I finish. They said, no, I'll pay you in 60 days. And the answer will be, okay, I'm not interested in working with you. I really appreciate this, but I cannot afford that. So in the end, you really need to understand. And what we do is actually not try to change the companies. We accept how they are, and we just externalize some processes that could be done faster.
Let's get into more like practical things. In how did you create the company? How did you come up with the idea? What was the initial team? What was the initial investment? And so that if somebody here is interested in creating the same sort of company, they can probably learn from it. And
so
don't raise 50 million to create a services company. That's not needed.
No. So actually, IdeaFoster came out from two founders, Anna and me. Anna was coming from the big consultancy. She was working in Ernst & Young, now EY. I was coming from iOS, which got acquired, but in the end, they put also tough conditions for the founders in order to get acquired and have a free card, so we could actually choose our future, which to me was as important as having more or less money as a result of the operation. But also, I was also coming from Bananity Closing, so it was a happy and a sad story. So we mixed that with big consultancy, and we started together. As a disclaimer, Anna and I were married, but that's something I can explain and we do not hide, but still we do not oftenly explain. That's the first thing we do.
Yeah.
So we're starting the company together. IdeaFoster came out as a name of one of 100 different names we tested to check if the domain name was available. And the goal was to mix strategy and big and startup methodologies. We moved from, remember, iOS office was, I could even see it from here. Actually not. It's the building behind this one. We're here in the best place in Barcelona, big office, great place, bright, a lot of light, big spaces. When Telefónica acquired the company, they put big corporation salaries to everyone. So everyone was happy, and I went out and we started IdeaFoster from an interior office the size of this black square. We couldn't bring clients in. It was we're ashamed of the first office we had. So in the end, it was starting from scratch, no investors, just our money. And we always live from the money we had in the bank. Actually, right now, we do not have any investor or bank loan or whatever. We live from what we produce, and I'm pretty proud of that. Coming from 90 years of depending of third parties giving you and trusting you, it feels really well to live from the money you produce from your work. And the idea came out pretty simply, and I was desperate seeing that big corporations were actually selling anything the client would like. So they were just moving her to somewhere saying, oh, you'll do digital transformation. And she found herself doing things she could not even understand. And I found myself creating startups, but also other people was telling me, how could we apply this to a bigger client? So we mixed the knowledge, and this is where IdeaFoster appeared. We actually changed lots of times what we did until we found something that could make us profitable. And after 2 years of trying and failing, we invented a product inside what we do, which is called Fast Innovation Program, which is a 2 weeks sprint where we integrate software we created to generate prototypes, and that started to work, and it started to fly.
And I gotta say, there's gotta be something with the ping pong tables in innovation startups, because you do have one. You have one in the office.
Yeah, well, actually, well, we look like what big corporations say a startup should like, but we look like that because we like it.
Is it a good selling point if you bring clients in? It's like, look, we've got a ping pong table.
Yeah, well, they like it. And the point is that it's curious because we have one client in Spain, which is Accenture, and so we go to their offices.
They said the thing about like casual Fridays.
Yeah, well, I cannot deny or or confirm that. But we have one client in Spain. Like the clients are where they are, so we usually go to their offices, and the team is also aligned with this. There is people from lots of places. Like one of my partners, Ankit, he's from India. One of my partners, Carolina, she's from the US and Mexico, actually. Then Amaya is from Basque Country, here from Spain. So actually, we come from lots of different places. And usually, the clients are anywhere in the world. There was one day, a couple of months ago, which was funny, because there was one person in the office, which I told him, if you want to go home, I'll understand, you are alone. Because we had, part of the team was on the US, on Cincinnati. I was on Saudi Arabia, which is a place where you go thinking it will be similar to everything you've seen, and it's quite different. And part of the team was in Australia, so it was impossible to meet even in a Skype room for all of us.
Yeah.
But there was no one in the office, and I said, okay, this means we have a problem, a growth problem, but in the same time, it feels good to see business goes beyond Barcelona and Spain.
No, definitely. And I wanted to ask about getting clients, because this is one of the things that really helps startups, right? Business development, sales is ultimately what brings money into the company, right? And that's really important. And I always like asking, how do you go and get clients? But I know you get only big clients, and I know you got a really big company by emailing directly the CEO.
Yeah,
so
well,
can you tell that one?
Well,
that one was amazing.
I've explained that story before. It's not a secret. It's Procter & Gamble. We were trying to work with them because we were really amazed on the innovation efforts they were doing on new brands and everything. So I remember we thought, who is doing innovation in Procter & Gamble? And we discovered there was this Procter & Gamble Ventures on the US. So we thought, okay, we need to talk to the CEO of Procter & Gamble Ventures, but then we wondered, which is his email? Because if we go to someone and ask his email, they'll never probably open this gate to us. So I said, okay, we need to actually go straight to him. So we tried his name dot his surname at pg.com, but it didn't work. But in the end, we had something. We knew it didn't work. So what we did, we made an email asking a meeting, and we put visibly the email address we knew it didn't work, like name.surname at pg.com. And in the BCC field, we put 35 different possible combinations of his email, like initial.initial at pg.com, name.initial of the surname at pg.com, surname.name, initial of the surname.name. So 35 combinations, even numbers, 1, 3, 4, assuming there could be more people named the same way. So 35. And just a couple of hours after that, we received an answer from one of the emails saying, where did you get my email from? Sent from my iPhone.
Yeah.
And that meant he was him, because he said, if I was an assistant, I wouldn't answer like this.
Yeah.
So we answered with a screenshot of the email, showing all the BCC and pointing an arrow to the visible email, like this is not your email, and all the 30 possibilities, a big circle here, this is your email, and I put, you actually told us your email. You actually gave us your address. Yeah. And he answered, this super US style, yeah, I love US people, I know a bunch of US.
Big applause for US people,
well,
right?
Yeah, I love the US style. But he answered, now you got my attention, let's do a Skype call. Yeah. And like 3 months after that, we did 3 projects with them, fast innovation on P&G Ventures, and one fast innovation program, which is 2 weeks project with them, and then also 2 other projects, because once we got into the system and we got homologated the company, we got at the same time 3 projects running in parallel in Cincinnati, finishing a couple of weeks ago, and they were really successful and they were happy. So yeah, and that's also a learning for us. We've been for 1 year trying to contact people that does projects on the companies, but we discovered that the person you need to make to fall in love with fast innovation concept is somebody who is not afraid of failing, because one KPI you'll bring in is that you'll be failing with wherever, like 80% of the work you do, it will be failures. So you need to work with someone that can accept and defend 80% failure rate. And that's the CEO or someone who is usually at C-level, who has visibility enough on the process, but it still is not afraid of having to defend an 80% failure level, because he knows it could be good. So we thought, okay, why can't we go to the CEO of P&G Ventures? And that was the question. And right now, we are doing some efforts to get to other people using the same approach, like inventing email addresses. But after a few success cases, we ran into a new way of doing sales, which is we transform them into our salesmen. And so we asked him permission to give his mobile number to somebody, and he said, okay. The first time. The second time he said, okay, but break a little. And the third time he said, okay, I'm not your secretary, so you should look for someone else. But our KPI is that a happy client will give you between 2 and 3 free calls with some potential new clients telling how was his experience with you. And that's the best thing you can do to someone. Like someone is doubting to hire you or not, and you tell them, would like to talk to the CEO of P&G Ventures. I said, yeah, of course. So you organize the call, and after that, they hire you. So this is what we do. Like, we ask clients to talk to potential new clients and tell them if we are good or not, or where we are good and where we are not that good.
No, that's incredible. That story about sending the email definitely was before GDPR.
Well, I mean, still, I would say we are pretty GDPR compliant because we are not selling anything. We're just asking for a meeting. We're just saying, hello, Alex, we'd love to meet with you. We believe we should work together. We check what you do it in your company, this, and I think we could get better results. Why don't we meet? And the answer usually was, who the hell do you think you are, pointing the wrong things I did? But sometimes it was positive, so we evolved, we tried. The first batch of emails we created, we had like 1% positive responses. The last one, we had 15%. So we learned a lot on the process. But again, we are not selling anything. We are just trying to identify what could be improved in every specific company, which takes a few hours. And we send an email telling, we would love to work with you. We believe we could improve this, or this. But still not selling, so it's asking a meeting is not illegal.
Is there anything you believe? Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, when GDPR creators check the way we do sales, they'll probably add a paragraph for this, but so far.
I was going to ask, is there anything you believe that most of the people get wrong? About business or life in general?
I mean, it
always brings up an interesting answer. So
yeah, I get wrong a lot of things. I mean,
something you really believe in, but the rest of the people, they are wrong.
Okay, no, definitely. I have a bunch of things I know I'm wrong at to start pointing to the rest. There is a funny thing, though, which is I'm the only one of friends of my age who have kids in plural. I'm a father of 2. And that's funny because when you have a kid, being a millennial and being an entrepreneur, everyone looks at you like, oh,
you settled down.
It was a mistake. You didn't want the kid, but it happened, so you love him. But when you have 2 children, they think, or you are like super idiot, like you have a big problem.
Fail fast, fail often.
Or you probably wanted to have kids, and when they realize it was you that was really the objective, and you are happy having kids, this really makes everyone my age to be like, really? I'm not even considering it.
Yeah.
But I discovered when you go to try to sell something, you should start by that. And all the meetings, I have a photo of my children as a background, and I said, the PowerPoint, oh, I pressed the wrong, sorry, my kids.
Yeah.
And they were, wait. Your kids? Like plural? 2, it means there are not 2 mistakes, and you start by that.
Twins?
And not twins, different
not
ages.
Adopted.
Wow.
Yeah,
and I start with, I'm a former millennial. I'm a millennial because of my age, but when you have 2 kids, they kick you out of the millennial space. So I'm a former millennial, and they start talking about their kids too. Yeah. And it's funny because it's a great way to engage. If you want to grow your sales, have kids in plural. That's a learning.
That's a great learning.
That's my best learning.
That's why I'm not selling enough.
Yeah.
I might have children.
And I must say that I'm also selling this as a great thing because my cousin-in-law, who is cousin of my wife, is here. He can say, we don't look exactly the same, but we are cousins. That's my cousin. Yeah. Hello, Paul. But so he's here. So he also has one beautiful child. So we share this passion for having kids being young.
I heard the story about, when you buy a new wallet, they always come with pictures of children. So I might gonna use this for my sales process.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, we've all said lies bigger than that probably. But I think people feel when they are actually your kids or not.
Depends. If you're a good salesperson, they
yeah. But no, I mean, now without kidding, the most interesting lessons I've learned on life, but I also apply them in the company, is after becoming a dad. Like you change your mind on how do you make decisions, and so I'm learning a lot. Actually, my older son, who is 3, will be 3 this summer, teach me something on an iPad like a few days ago. So he was using the iPad, and I saw him doing something on YouTube. I didn't even know how to do. And talking with a friend of mine, we do a podcast together in Spanish. He said, no, I learned the same thing from my kids. So it looks kids learn to do something on how to switch from video to other videos. before parents do, because when we tell them only one video, he knows that if he switches to another video before I hear the song that it's on the end of the chapter, I will not recognize that's the end, so he'll be able to see more chapters.
Oh, wow.
So my son knows how to jump from one video to the other without stopping it, so I will not hear the sound. But he learned this while he was 2 by trying and failing, and I learned it from him.
Because you're not a millennial anymore.
Yeah, I know. That's the point. So there is a lot you can learn from actual having kids, not using the photo of default photo.
Fake photos.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to use it anymore. I'm going to take them out now. All right, couple of questions before we wrap this up. We open the floor for questions. So first of all, we always like to ask this, but how can we help you and your company from Startup Grind, knowing that we are in 400 cities, 125 different countries, we're all over the world? Is there any way we can possibly help you?
Sure. I mean, I can record the video and you can put it like we offering our services on 400 cities. That would be cool. No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean,
with children. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I could start like I'm a father of 2, but I want to talk to you about fast innovation.
Exactly.
No, let me think about that. I'm sure I can come into something specific, but to me, something I learned is that the most difficult first client to get is the first one, and after that, things happen. So, and I really think that the most difficult thing for a startup is to actually sell something. I mean, it's even more difficult to sell rather than creating something. So I think events like Startup Grind, when you help people to actually sell the products they have, this is quite cool. In IdeaFoster, it also applies. So if any of you ever needs to accelerate their TTP, we'll be there helping you. That sales ad can apply to other startup grinds. I'll be sending you a default email if you'd like.
Exactly. And the last one, and this is the trickiest question of the show, it's everybody has got a useless superpower. Which one is yours? Something you do exceptionally well, but it's useless.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Could you please hold your finger, the small one, like this? Yeah. You just pick it from the other hand. Okay. And now you do it hard. You can put it harder, and you now break it. No, just kidding. That's my power.
That was a very good one.
My kid is amazed of that. And yeah, I have another one, a real one.
I can tell you've got children.
Yeah.
All right. What's the next one?
I do have a superpower.
Yeah.
Which is how to put a free pitch of your cousin startup on the last minute. So my cousin here has a startup called Intern Tech, which is helping startups all around the world and bigger companies to hire the best interns worldwide. So if you are students, you should talk to him. If you have a company, you should also talk to him. He mixes best students worldwide with best companies. My superpower is to put that in the middle of an interview. His name is Paul Canning, and he's over there. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Intern Tech, Paul Canning. He can stand up, and you'll all see him. That's my cousin. Could you come on, Paul? It's the time. Yeah, but standing
up.
up.
Your first event.
Yeah.
We love Paul. Thanks to him, we've got you on stage. So
that's the superpower. I was thinking, how could I put that on the superpower?
Exactly. We found the superpowers, like go to the relatives, talk to them, convince them, get them drunk. No, just kidding. But anyways, thank you very much. Well, if there's questions from the audience, I'm going to remind very briefly the rules. 1 question per person, and don't pitch. And what else?
I'll do for you.
Be very respectful of everybody else's time, right? 1 question per person. Say your name and don't pitch. Thank you.
Hi, Pau.
Hello.
I kind of like follow up your how can I say, almost your life. I was in Telefonica by the time you guys were like negotiating and everything. But anyway.